It is beautiful, isn't it? When Peugeot commissioned Pininfarina to design the new 406 Coupe, it must have been like lighting the touch paper on a firework, sitting back and waiting. And when the ensuing explosion arrived, they must have been delighted. It does withstand closer examination like any piece of sculpture. And these small buttresses down the rear of the window architecture hint at something special. The clean lines of the rear are continued around the sides with just a subtle swelling at the haunches, and then little else down the sides to the front of the car, where the nose is quietly confident and assertive perhaps, rather than overtly aggressive. These lines down the bonnet, well, you don't even notice them until you stare closely at the front of the car, and they define the shape of the front of the car. It's all very subtle and very elegant and results in a very beautiful car, which makes it all the more surprising that Peugeot decided to kit it out with the interior from an old Parisian taxi. The dash is more or less taken straight from the standard 406, the only real difference being these chrome bezels surrounding the dials, which is hardly the stuff of fantasy. Then underneath we have a strata of this odd, shiny, scratchy plastic, and then right underneath, on the centre console, we have a reappearance of the dreaded elephant hide plastic that's seen adorning the interior of the 206, and I don't like it at all. Mind you, it is a genuine four-seater. There's room in the back of the car for two proper grown-ups, and there's a really neat trick for getting them in and out. Forward and back, and forward and back. I'm sure I could break it eventually, but it would probably take me ages. So, is it just a pretty face? Is all of this just makeup, or is its beauty more than skin deep? Has the 406 Coupe got what it takes to cut the mustard when you hit the road? In short, yes, it has. This is the 3-litre V6 engine version, an engine that actually makes an appearance in a great many cars. There's the Atlantic Venturi, a French supercar, the Renault Espace and Laguna, to name but a few, and then of course the 406 Saloon and Coupe. Though I have to say, for whatever reason, it seems to make the least interesting noise in this car of all the other cars that it's fitted to. That said, it is a stonker of an engine. There's bags of torque, and once you get it fully on song, it does start to make a reasonably attractive snarl as you progress at speed. Otherwise, the chassis feels fluid and compliant and is a pleasant drive whilst being sporty at the same time. You are aware of that long wheelbase. It's quite a nice car to progress swiftly rather than perhaps cane it round the very tightest of roads. The steering is precise, though I don't like the angle of the steering wheel. It's tilted too far this way. It feels rather like driving a truck at times, and that can't be adjusted out. And the gear lever seems to have the longest throw imaginable. You need arms about 6 foot long. That said, once you engage the gear, it does snick in quite nicely for you. Peugeot are very good at building drivers' cars. They've proven it time and time again. And it's just as well that the 406 is no exception, given the car's sporting looks. But I'd like to introduce an annoying pseudo-philosophical argument here. The 406 Coupe is a beautiful car. It's also a mainstream car, and beauty is seldom mainstream. Some of the cars acknowledged to be the most beautiful in the world, well, part of their appeal is due to their rarity and exclusivity. Now, the 406 Coupe might be the kind of car that sends the fleet manager disappearing to the toilet with a picture of it, but it can hardly claim to be any sort of piece of automotive exotica. That's what's led it to become almost invisible on the road. When I first saw it at a motor show, I was stunned that Peugeot could produce such a beautiful car. Now, not far down the road, it's become just another company car, precisely because Peugeot make it. I'm sure there's a conclusion to be drawn from that. Damned if I know what it is, though. Its beauty is more than skin deep. The handling is exploitable without being challenging. The engine's strong and the face, well, gorgeous. Price-wise, at between 20 and 27 grand, it does sit rather awkwardly between more cheap and ordinary coupes and the likes of the Volvo C70, the BMW 3 Series Coupe, Saab 9-3, Mercedes CLK, and of course the Ford Kuga. And it is always going to be let down and hampered by its miserable interior and by its almost impossible good looks that render it pretty much invisible in a crowd, in much the same way that some supermodels complain that no one ever has the nerve to chat them up in bars.